Meet Courtney Clenney, the OnlyFans superstar who had a bright future and a dark past. In her career, she earned well over $3 million and garnered a social media following of over 2 million fans. So many couldn't understand how she ended up in a love story that ended in cold-blooded murder on April 3rd, 2022. Welcome to our channel where we explore the darkest corners of humanity, and the star of today's show is messy. So Courtney started her career at a young age. She was born on April 21st, 1996 in Midland, Texas. And then in 2003, she and her family relocated to Austin. Courtney aspired to be an actress growing up, and she often appeared in commercials and took jobs as an extra in films. She eventually started an OnlyFans page in 2020 where she gained wild success posting adult content. And then later that year, she met and fell in love with Christian Obumseli, also known as Toby. Toby was known to everyone around him as being bright and charismatic. He had been a star athlete in school and gained success with the cryptocurrency wave. And together, Toby and Courtney had lots of friends and became well known within their unit. But beneath the surface, their relationship was super toxic and abusive. Like really, really abusive.
He's like, I want this house because of you.
Courtney apparently had a really bad drinking problem and ended up with a DUI in Texas in 2020, and then the two of them decided to move to Miami together that following year. Courtney would often lash out in jealous rages and start fights with Toby in public. Toby seemed to just kind of make a lot of excuses for her to their friends, and oftentimes he would blame her random outbursts on the alcohol. But Courtney and Toby fought often, and their fights regularly ended with police intervention. In July of 2021, on a trip to Las Vegas, Courtney actually threw a glass at Toby that barely missed his head. She was then arrested and charged with domestic battery, but the Clark County District Attorney's Office dropped the case against her in August of 2021. Friends of the couple actually began to record videos of their fights just in case anything went too far, and their fights had gotten so bad that the luxury apartment building they had lived in had been taking the necessary steps towards actually evicting them from the apartment. Mostly all their friends stated that Courtney was the main aggressor, but that their relationship was just extremely unhealthy. So on April 2nd, 2022, police were called to their residence for a domestic disturbance between the two that had taken place in the lobby of the apartment building. Body cam footage shows Courtney pleading with the cops to get a restraining order against Toby. She says she's afraid of him, she's afraid to go back to her apartment, and she's really painting this picture of being really, really afraid of Toby. But the building manager stated that she'd actually advised him not to call the police regarding their dispute at all. And he's like, guys, we're actually evicting these two because they are crazy. It seemed like maybe Courtney was just frazzled and unsure about how she wanted to handle the situation, so the police just end up escorting her back to her apartment. And then the very next day, Toby showed up around 4:30 in the afternoon with sandwiches for them and left the apartment that night on a gurney. So around 5 p.m. that afternoon, the police responded to a 911 call from Courtney on account of domestic violence. In the released 911 call, Courtney was heard pleading frantically with the Miami PD to save her boyfriend as he bled away in their home. However, what Courtney apparently forgot to mention in her call for help was the fact that she was the one who had stabbed Toby. The 911 operator kept asking for the couple's luxury high-rise condo address while Courtney apologized to Toby, and Toby was briefly heard in the background twice stating that he couldn't feel his arm.
What is the address of your emergency? I'm gonna die. Please. 3101. It's 130, so 130. Ma'am, listen to me. You need to stop screaming on the line and give me the address.
I'm gonna die. I can't feel my arm.
3101.
I can't feel my arm.
Ma'am.
So my boyfriend is dying of a stab.
Ma'am, what is the address?
When the police went to their residence, they found Toby with a 3-inch deep stab wound located right above a tattoo of Courtney's name on his left pectoral muscle. Toby was immediately rushed to a nearby hospital but was subsequently pronounced dead later that day. When the police asked Courtney what happened, she said she stabbed Toby in a matter of self-defense. She claimed he slammed her up against the wall and choked her, and that she threw the knife at him from about 10 feet away. Courtney was questioned, and Toby's death was ruled as a homicide, but Courtney Clenney was not immediately arrested for Toby Obumseli's murder.
Because I grabbed a knife. I grabbed a knife and I said, like, pretty much just like, don't get any close to me. And then, kill me. Said something, kill me. And then I just like threw it. And I really was thinking.
No, in fact, Courtney Clenney was treated like the victim for quite some time after the murder. Witnesses have said that Courtney was even being comforted by the police at the scene, and at her interrogation, she even goes so far as to ask the cops questioning her for a hug after finding out Toby was pronounced dead. Like, sir, she just murdered someone in cold blood. Do not hug her.
This is not real, right? Okay. There's no fucking way. Can I please have a hug? Am I allowed to do that in here?
Sure. What do we get?
Relax.
You're fine.
No.
Calm down. Calm down.
It turned out the medical examiner stated that it was actually impossible for Toby's wounds to have been made from 10 feet away, and that Toby was bleeding for a substantial amount of time before the police were called to the scene. Courtney Clenney wasn't arrested until 4 months later on August 10, 2022 in Hawaii, where she was supposedly in rehab for PTSD and substance abuse. So this girl killed her whole boyfriend and then went to Hawaii. Like, what? Make it make sense. And it turned out that after the murder, she'd flown to Texas to be with her family and spent some time there before flying to Hawaii. And while she was there in Texas, Courtney goes out to walk her dogs and runs into an 18-year-old boy. The boy said that when Courtney approached him, she was visibly intoxicated and asked him for his name. She asked him to walk her home, and when he agrees, she begins to make sexual advances at him. The boy refused to kiss her, and then she started making violent threats toward him. She said she would burn his house down if he doesn't kiss her. Like, girl, what? Get it together. Anyway, then he texts his dad, and when his dad arrives on the scene, Courtney starts shoving him and slapping him. So obviously he calls the police. And when the deputy arrived, he spoke with Courtney's parents, Kim and Deborah Clenney, who said she wasn't supposed to be drinking and apologized for her behavior. On the other hand, Courtney denied shoving anyone and with tears in her eyes, said she was going through a really hard time. The dad decided not to press any charges, but that was because he was totally unaware of Toby's murder at the time. But he did say that Courtney was an aggressive person and that she was definitely someone who was inclined to hurt somebody. So after she was arrested, Courtney and her lawyer decided to stick to their domestic violence claim. However, that did not hold up for very long. It turns out that before he died, Toby had kept a couple of recordings on his phone from their argument, which showed her using racial slurs against him and her angrily screaming, berating, and cursing him out. Surveillance footage also surfaced of a fight between the two of them in their building's elevator, which clearly shows Courtney as the aggressor. And texts between the two of them suggested that Courtney may have stabbed Toby on 2 separate occasions prior to his murder. In many of the phone recordings, Toby repeatedly apologizes, and at the scene of the crime, investigators piece together a ripped-up letter penned by Toby stating that he wanted to work things out with Courtney. Courtney Clenney was charged with second-degree murder with a deadly weapon in connection to the murder of Toby. At the time of her arrest, she pleaded not guilty and was held without bond while she awaited trial. Courtney's parents, Kim and Deborah, have also been arrested and charged with accessing unauthorized evidence. Apparently, they got a hold of Toby's laptop from Courtney and tried breaking into it to access information about Toby. They were held for a short time in Texas before being released. However, Courtney is facing a new charge in relation to the unauthorized use of the computer. Toby Obumseli's family has since filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Courtney Clenney, as well as the apartment building and its security, stating that Courtney Clenney had recently been diagnosed with severe personality disorder and that the building should have acted more quickly when the domestic disturbance had originally been called. Apparently, the security team waited outside of their apartment for 12 minutes before heading to the unit, and Toby's life could have been saved in that time. The trial is yet to take place, but things are not looking good for Miss Courtney Clenney. New evidence is coming out every single day, so make sure to follow along for updates. Rest easy, Toby. We're so sorry this happened to you, and we hope you're finally at peace. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Toodaloo!